Taylor Cavanaugh, welcome to Security Halt podcast. How's it going, brother?
Hey, going well, dude. Thanks everybody for tuning in.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure to have you here. I think your story not only resonates to our military folks, but with a lot of our civilian brothers and sisters that have been going through some trials and tribulations and think that they can't overcome it, that they have to stay in the same mindset, that they have to continue living this life of self-sabotage. And brother, your story is nothing short of amazing when it comes to being able to pluck yourself out of just the absolute worst and say, fuck it, man. The only way through this is to go right damn through the fucking wall and get on the other side.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you saying that, man. I would say the real ones get it because self-sabotage is a good word. Is everybody understands that,
Yeah.
and it's a very weird human element that when we say it, there's not one person that whenever he hears that goes, I don't know what he's talking about. Dude, everybody, we have this like destructive capacity that we just need to break it down. And that's what we'll kind of dive into is it's that understanding of self and extrapolating, like what is the root causes? When does it happen? What can we be aware of? And then more importantly, if we are there, how do we pull ourselves out of it and keep it moving?
Yeah, man. So dude, take us through the story, but let's begin all the way back, man. Like how did Taylor find himself in this idea that he just had to be this fucking loud, violent individual and always cause trouble?
Yeah, man. I probably started early. I mean, since I was a child, I knew I wanted to be in the military. I wanted to be a SEAL. And then just moving up through sports and stuff, I always had a little bit of an aggressive ability.
Yeah.
Sports where aggression counted for a lot, I was generally pretty good at. But my focus for military and things were people are old souls. I'm a very young soul. I think I had a lot of I lacked self-awareness on a very massive scale. I liked things in my immediate purview, the girls, the partying, the stuff, and it all kind of picked up, and it just became more important. And I had no real vision. I knew I was like, yeah, I'll get in the military, but it all kind of seemed far away, and I didn't have a lot of strategy. I thought I did. I was pretty good at school, and I like went to school and did my homework and stuff and showed up sometimes, and I cared and I actually put forth effort, but there was no like structured plan or battle rhythm to it.
Yeah. I think that's what gets a lot of us in trouble at those early ages. Like we just like hard focus on the flashy and the cool, and our charisma gets us through. Our charisma and our ability to like that gift of gab gets us through life up until we meet that one obstacle that we can't push through.
Yeah.
And if we're lucky, we get that correction through the military.
Yeah.
But I would imagine that even when you made it onto the teams going through training, like you still found ways that were like, man, I can still kind of get over it. I can still kind of just like get myself into situations where I can just talk my way out.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. The charisma and the ability and also just the discipline on the work side was there, so I could kind of lie to myself, which I think a lot of guys do in their own lives too. And I was disciplined-ish, which I think is worse. And I think I know a lot of guys fall into that. You're like, I go to the gym, I'm kind of there, but I'm kind of like, but they know
Yeah.
that they could push it harder. But also, it allows you to lie to yourself. Well, I'm good. Things are going okay, and I'm achieving some measures of success, so I don't really have to change anything. It's not uncomfortable enough yet. But if you're not really progressing in the right way, you're gonna backslide at some point. And that's what happened to me in the teams is I got in and what had got me there, I was still doing, but then you have to keep leveling up. You have to keep pushing the pace. And I was like, well, I'm there first and I'm there late and I work out so I can kind of do what I want on the weekends and that type of stuff. But it's all one piece, right? The who,
Yeah.
it's the engine that drives all the stuff. You can't be one guy here and another guy here and expect it all just to work out. And that was the issue. And it lacked integrity. I saw a definition of integrity that was you're not being divided against oneself. And I thought that was a very, really apt way to think about it is there, when you're integral, one piece, integrity. And so I was like this, like I had this juxtaposition of self that really locked on in some capacities and then not in the others. And at some point, you can't bend reality that long in it. You start playing with fire, man. And you're gonna get burned.
Yeah. And it's something that a lot of people don't understand, that that's a serious, like losing your brotherhood. Once you become a SEAL, once you become a Ranger, a Green Beret, when they take that tab away or they take that trident away, that is a huge thing. That's not
Oh
something
man.
lightly. And what was that like for you going through that?
Oh dude. I mean it. A lot of guys that have been through it, man. It's a very rare thing to even retiring or getting rid of it. But like definitely, I don't even think it got taken. I gave it away. That's like the was worst part, right? It felt terrible. It was like I don't wish it on my worst enemy. When I knew the axe had fallen and it was coming down, I almost couldn't get out of the fetal position. Dead serious, man. Like it
Fuck.
was like that. Some days where I was like literally in the fetal position, like holding on for dear life. It was brutal, man. And you shake it off at some point, but the beginning when it was like kind of coming to a head, it was all I could do to just hold on, man, because it was everything. It wasn't even like because it's not a job.
Yeah.
And that's where people talk about identity and about what you do and stuff, but this is different. It just is. And it becomes first, it takes all of you to get there. It's not just like, oh, I go to school and then I go to an interview. It takes blood and sweat and you really dig into it some different levels. And then you're there and you're like in an echo chamber. It's your entire world. You spend it's not a normal 9 to 5. You're not bringing your lunch pail and then going home. You're gone. You spend more time with those guys than your family, and so it gets woven into your double helixes.
Yeah.
And that was when that was like ripped. It was like ripping part of me away, and but it was obviously needed, and it's part. Everybody's got to hang it up at some point, and that's what my master chief said to me. He said something interesting, kind of when it was coming to a head. He goes, I looked at you and I asked, like, hey, man, are you going to be okay? Like, are you going to do something to yourself? And he goes, but I looked at you and I knew you were going to be good. And I told him, he's like, well, what are you going to do? The OIC, the CO said. I said, well, I guess I'm just going to do what I always done and put my shoulders back and take it on the chin and keep moving. And he almost teared up when he said it. He's like, all right, man. Because he knew it's not some normal day, man, when you get that taken
Yeah.
away from you and then it's the fear and uncertainty of like, what the hell am I going to do next?
Yeah. And what led up to that? Well, like we in the community, we see, like I've seen and witnessed like infractions that I would think like, oh shit, okay, you're gonna lose some rank, you're gonna be fine, like you'll be good. And next thing you know, your friend's like, yeah, they took my tab. They took my tab for it. Bar fight,
Yeah.
drinking, driving, like it's never something that becomes like, okay, like you never know. You never
Yeah.
fucking know how bad things are gonna get and what command's gonna do. And in your case, like what happened? What led to that?
So in my case, the command was always really good with me. I had a really good rep and I was like the golden boy, man, for a while. Like early promotes, but because I was invested, it was my dream, and so I was taking on every responsibility. I was there early. I was really pushing the pace as a new guy, and so that was shown. I was getting promoted. Things were going really well, and I got in an altercation in a bar fight, right? And
Oh,
that was after my first deployment, and that they were still good with me. I lost rank. I was already a paid E6, in like 4 years. And so I lost rank. So now I'm kind of back to the E5 mafia and then building it all back up. Go to Iraq. I'm on it was a felony charge. I was facing prison time, a lot of stuff. So the command was very fair with me. They're like, hey, all right, they're kicking the can down the road. We're still going to bring you to Iraq and all this stuff. Very fair, very fair. And then that went on for about 2 years, that whole shebang. And then 2 years later, I'm at a concert and get into not a fight, but I'm like in a golf cart that's not mine, and I was on probation, man. And so it was like
yeah,
this fucking guy again, right? And it wasn't here's the thing, the command was still going to be okay with it just because it wasn't really like a really bad, but it turned into something kind of bad, and Navy Jag was like negative, right? So they tested me for steroids. This is the
no,
they tested me for steroids because they saw the police report and they're like, "There's no way," because I had gotten tased, man, and ripped tasers out, and it was just kind of a thing. And they go, "He's definitely on performance enhancing drugs," which I was. And so they sent my my blood work up to UCLA Olympic Testing Center. Mind you, you're talking about climate. There's that climate at this time of like guys
Yep.
getting in trouble for steroids. And so it was like, with this guy, he's doing really well. He's got a lot of, people know we're going to make an example. Not that I was being made an example of, but they just weren't going to let it slide.
Yeah.
And they brought the hammer down on me. And so I took a general discharge, grateful to my CO because it would have been an OTH, but he had the ability to cap it. So he goes, "This guy doesn't deserve. He's done good work for us. So he's been here 7 years. So it wasn't like I was there for 7 years, multiple deployments, and they gave me a general discharge, and then I had to go back to jail. So I go to jail, and when I walk out of jail, I am out of the military. No reserve time, all that.
Nothing.
I'm cut clean with a DD 214 with a general.
Damn. That is talk about like starting over a video game on extremely difficult, man.
Yeah, like it was. I mean, you're respawning.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like. It felt
Yeah.
like I was respawning with, okay, well now I'm in the civilian world.
Yeah.
Right.
Dude, that's got to be brutal, and there's no other way to put it, but like in a video game reference of you just finished the game on fucking awesome mode, you're Navy SEAL, and then start back up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And take us through that. Like, what was your I couldn't blame anybody if they're walking out of those gates and they decide to say, you know what, fuck it, I'm just done for a while.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, and here's the thing is I have the ability to compartmentalize it, which was good and bad. I shelved it. And I was like, well, moving on. And I just didn't even really address the loss of I just moved forward, and I knew this was coming, so I had already prepped a job working in construction as a supervisor for a big project with a really good company. And so I had done kind of a lateral financial move. So I was, now I'm on a big multi-million-dollar project overseeing, homes being built and drinking out of a fire hose, but I know how to run teams and find information. And so I was pretty successful at it. But now the governor's off, right? So I don't have I'm not training for anything. I'm not worried about drug tests or any of that. So I'm taking Adderall, Xanax, right? Just every day, smoking weed at night, but the disciplined ish. I'm still going to the gym. I'm not showing up fucked up, right? I'm crushing work. I'm not drinking at work or anything like that. And so I was like, I'm good, right? That's just what people do. You're a civilian, man. You don't need to. I can do what I want now. And my chi just wasn't centered. It was emotionally not stable. I was explosive with the relationship that I was in. It was just, too much drinking, too much, just emotionally volatile. And that goes on for about a year. Then I do a lateral move again and start in the cannabis industry. We're building out facilities and doing some stuff. It was legal for the first year. So now I'm a chief security officer of that, pitching decks and moving up the ladder. And next thing I know, everybody gets fired. The VC capitalist likes me, and I have raised a lot of money. And now I'm pitching decks for other companies and doing all this stuff. And I stack on an opiate habit during this
oh
time.
no.
So I'm making good money and living paycheck to paycheck, man. Like
Fuck.
I had no financial discipline. The relationship was speed wobbles and snorting fentanyl at night, doing work emails. And so I'm doing
Shit.
all this every day, man. 7 days a week, still going to the gym, still, but now I'm sipping vodka at the gym at like 5 p.m. right?
Fuck.
To take the edge off and totally thinking it's normal, but I'm still hitting these wickets of success. So nobody's really saying anything to me because they're like, dude, he's still fucking crushing it. Like, but speed waffles, man. You can't bend reality that long, and I was getting them. I was missing meetings. Now things are falling off the back of the truck. Relationship's not good. Financially, I'm not stable, right? I'm going tits up, but from taking too much every once in a while, smashing my face to pieces and getting it stitched up and just continuing on. like it was completely nothing. And then it was just all came to a head. It all falls apart. It's at some point, and that's exactly what happened. Lost the job, the girl, the this, the that, the money, and now so I get off opiates. I knew that had to happen. I moved, I separated myself from everything and just white knuckled that, which was challenging because I
Fuck,
didn't think
man.
I was addicted, man. I didn't think I had a problem. That's like I didn't think I had a problem. But the issue was I never had a problem because I never not did it.
Yeah.
Right. It's easy to say. It's easy to say that because I had never not done it. I did it every
Yeah.
day for like a year. And so how do you
Fuck.
know you have a problem? And so, but it felt like I was crawling out of my skin, man. Like it really had its hooks in me and I didn't understand because I never really dealt with physical addiction.
Yeah.
Right? There's like I wouldn't even say I'm like a person that's addicted to anything, but I will abuse stuff. But this, I was addicted. I was 100% addicted, like at a cellular level. And that was a process of learning, but got off that, never had a problem with that since. But now I'm no purpose, completely isolated. The work emails get cut. Now I'm like, what am I doing? I'm floundering. Now the money runs out that I had kind of saved and sold my shares in the company. Now I'm homeless in my truck. And I had this moment where I turned the car off and I go, oh, and it just felt like this cloak, like falling on me, like, oh, this is how it happens. I'm homeless. I got
Yeah.
nowhere to go. I got like $6 in my account, no gas. I'm parked in the jungle of like the east side of Hawaii on the Big Island where I had just isolated. And it's like very rural, but I knew nobody would mess with me because there's just no cars down there and no cell service. And I had a sawed off shotgun on the passenger seat of my truck. And I just sat there, man, for 3 days, dead serious, just sat in the car, didn't move for like 3 days and would go for little walks in the jungle and just was not sad, but just tired. Like
Yeah.
you had said, Denny, like, dude, I was just exhausted. I just I didn't have it in me to like try again. And that's where, if anybody watching this is at that point, man, it's a scary because feels very hopeless. It feels like you're like, I can't muster the energy to fucking give a fuck anymore or have the emotional bandwidth to even talk to anybody. And luckily after about a few days, I had like a moment of clarity. I call it God, but that was like, hey man, sack up. You're not going to kill yourself. You have a mom, a sister. You're not going to leave that type of devastation behind you. It's not you. So if you're going to do this, sack up and fucking make a run again. And so I was like, all right, well, if I'm going to die, if I'm going to die, let me just do it with my boots on at least. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm like, and so that's when I was like, I'm going to join the Foreign Legion. Who knows where they're going to send me, what they're going to do, but let me push myself through one more crucible and see kind of what happens. And that was about 2 years and some change to the day when I had got out of the United States military that this was happening.
Damn. That is one hell of a message from God to receive at like your absolute worst moment.
Yeah.
Like, do you reflect back on that and think exactly like that's where it came from? Like that was like divine intervention. Like, hey,
1,000%. I've
yeah,
always felt the guiding force in my life, even through it, that's since a child. I wasn't really raised in a religious home. I was exposed to a lot of different religions, actually. My mom studies Buddhism. I've gone to a lot of meditation retreats. My dad, they were raised Catholic, but they're not Catholic and Christian. We go to church, but it wasn't something that was really pushed. But I've always felt some spiritual connection in that there's a lot more than meets the eye, and energies and things are very, very real. And so I was tapped into that. And even in my worst moments, I never was like, oh, there's no God. I was just like, oh shit, man, I really fucked up this time. I need help.
yeah,
I was always kind of that type of dialogue. And so I was always open and receptive to it. And I was broken down enough because God doesn't shout at you, he whispers. And destiny doesn't, your destiny is going to whisper at you. It's not some loud booming voice. And so to hear it, you need to quiet the noise. And if you're on drugs, you're disconnected because
yep,
it's very self-serving. If you're even in your phone or just stressing or you're not hearing it. You have to be quiet. And it was quiet enough, quite literally, in the jungle by myself. The only thing going is like the tree frogs. But I was completely open and listening. And that's when you hear it. And I
yeah,
did.
dude, hell yeah. And how did that go? Like once you knew that that was the calling, How did you even think about like, how do I get connected? Where do I go? And how do I get now that I'm homeless and with $6 to my name, how do I
Yeah.
get a ticket to France?
Oh, well, the first thing, you know, it's amazing how things like you don't see a way, everything seems impossible. And then when you start making this, things start to open. And here's exactly how I did it. I had already researched the Foreign Legion when I had been in my checkered past as a kid and was having trouble getting in the United States military. So I knew about the unit. I even knew about them when I was younger. And then when was realizing I didn't really have a lot of options after the civil career was kind of, it started creeping up again. And I said, okay, this is my look red, grab red if I need to.
Yep.
I was at that point. And so I had already done some preparation, mental preparation, and I knew where I needed to go, what I needed to do. So I just needed to dot some I's and cross some T's. But financially, bro, I Googled and I went, well, those fast cash, my credit was shit at this time and I had overdrawn accounts. But I went, those fast cash loan places will give you money. And so I reached out to two of them, $500, two different companies for $500. And it probably cost me 1,000,000% interest, which I paid after I got out of the boot camp in Foreign Legion. But the $1,000 probably cost me $5,000. But I took it out, man. And that's what I used. I took a one-way flight to France, man.
Hell yeah. And I want to pause on that, man, because that's a lot of people that you talked about where when you finally are resolute on what you want to do, the path will unveil itself. Like it'll be crystal clear in front of you. And you have to answer that calling. Like it happens to us when we're young men going to the military. At first you don't know, oh, how do I do it? What should I choose? What MOS? And when you make that decision, the path will be crystal clear in front of you.
Yeah.
Same thing for going to selection. It's like be absolutely resolute with your decision and shit will fall in line and you'll see it. And for you, it was taking out those quick payday loans or like whatever you have to do to make that mission complete, man. Like go after it. Go fucking after it.
The universe respects drastic action. It really does. And when we overthink, there's a guy, Johnny Chang. He's kind of big in Jesus and in ministry and stuff, but he was in prison for a long time. And he said something interesting to me. He said there's two types of thinking: deep thinking and overthinking. And deep thinking is positive and strategic. You always know when you're overthinking because it turns negative. And people will be deep thinking and they'll be showing a pathway and they're like, okay. And then they start overthinking and then they get analysis paralysis.
Yep.
Right. And when don't go over to that side. When it's clear, go. And trust your gut instinct. And that's, I think, I'm sure it served us well. You know, we're still here. That gut instinct and being decisive is massive, and things start to align because that's walking your aligned path, and things will fall into place that you didn't see coming, or you don't know what you don't know until that path illuminates as you walk it. Starts to become more clear as you actually trust the process.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So you get to France, like bring us to that journey, what it was like walking up and getting like actually like, hey, I'm former Navy SEAL. I'm here to get in the Foreign Legion.
Yeah. Dude, I said a prayer, man. It was raining and it was like nighttime. I was like Sunday, and there's this old base called Fort Nugent. It says Legion Étrangère over the, if anybody's seen those pictures, it's quite poetic, kind of hard, but I was the only motherfucker there. It was raining. It was late October or mid October. It was a Hunter's full moon, man. It was quite interesting, the scene. And I sat on this bench and I got my paperwork together. I had a DD 214 and my passport. Boom. And I had it like readily accessible. And you walk up to a bag. There's no, anybody that knows, it's an old 200-year-old institution that was started by an old king. They fought in every war from like Algeria to Afghanistan. But it's comprised of foreigners. And the only way to join is to go and knock on the door like the Wizard of Oz or something. There's no calling ahead or anything. So it's pretty unique in that capacity. And I came up with my black leather bag and knocked on the door, and a Mexican Legionnaire opened the door and he said, you know, why are you here, really, in French? And I said, Je suis ici pour la Legion. I had Googled it. right before I walked in and he said, "Take your fucking hat off." I had my hat on, dead serious, in like perfect English. And so I took my hat off and then I gave him my passport. And I didn't see that passport again for 2.5 years.
Damn.
That was starting into the process, and they took me down to the bowels and the back, a Ukrainian equivalent, picked me up, and then he told me to get up on the fucking pull bar, like 9 o'clock at night, and that's what I did, and that was the start of it.
Damn. Yeah, and I would imagine that it was probably one of the craziest things I've seen. I don't think the documentaries do a really good way of like depicting like what it's like to be in that mentality of like you're not a native French speaker.
Yeah.
And from what I've seen is not everybody there speaks English. So it's like you have to figure this fucking language out ASAP.
It is unique because your 150 nations are represented in the Foreign Legion. So you're surrounded by guys. I had never been in a room where so many languages I could hear. Very, very unique. Mongolian, Thai, Spanish, Portuguese. You got the Africans speaking Afrikaans, all that stuff, dude. It's crazy what you're hearing. And then me, little old me, and I'm speaking, to some of the Nepali guys that speak a little bit of English and some broken English, but we're kind of learning a lot of sitting around, waiting, a lot of processing. The process is IQ tests, Interpol background checks, medical checks, psychological evaluations, physical tests, and that takes about a month. And you're like in civilian gear and a little bit of sports gear for this process, and then you get the opportunity to go to boot camp. It's about 1 out of 15, 1 out of 12 guys get selected to actually go to boot camp. But psychologically during this time, man, I was hurting, man. I was hurting. I was very much it. It was this interesting mix of feeling finally proud again, being in something positive, and I knew it was a powerful story. So I knew I was going in the right direction, but it was painful. It was back to the fucking bottom, like scrubbing toilets, getting yelled at. I was just doing halos, which was it's a tough pill to swallow, man. When they're like, we don't give a fuck what you were, scrub the toilet, motherfucker, right?
Yeah.
And it's not like I was sitting there going around telling people I was a SEAL, but as people figure that stuff out, I got a little extra love. But I'm back in Army infantry boot camp. It was humbling, but it was what I needed because it felt good to just sit. In the military, a lot of sitting and waiting. It felt healing just to sit and not feel rushed or all chaotic. And my brain was healing. And I had a lot of things I was processing out, and it was a time where it was a pain I needed to feel. I needed to like mourn the loss of my old life and say goodbye to it. It was gone, man. The title, the this, the that, the life was gone. And it was just, all right, well, I'm going to walk into this unknown fray and see what happens.
Yeah. How did it feel to come out of out of that training and earn that name, that title, being a French Foreign Legionnaire? Like, how did that feel? Was it to the equivalent of everything you'd hope it'd be? Was it just as like impactful, or did you feel any sort of like, fuck, like this wasn't what I was looking for?
I mean, it definitely wasn't. I'll say this. I didn't go with any expectation, which was helpful for me.
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't going to be like where I was coming from.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I was trying to match the SEAL teams. I knew there was just nothing I was going to come across. It's not like it's not a special force unit.
Yeah.
Also, I knew it was infantry, highly trained infantry, but still infantry. So, and I wasn't expecting to go do Rambo shit. Like everybody who's been in the military any amount of time knows that's not it. And so I didn't have that weird romantic expectation. And I had already been to boot camp, so I kind of knew what to expect. And so there was my expectation management was very fair. So, because I really just needed to use it I needed time to figure out what the fuck I was going to do. And if time was going to pass, I was going to do it with a gun and doing something kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So that's all I needed it for. And so anything else that came, I was happy about. So it was perfect for that. It gave me time to figure some things out, work on my own self-development physically and psychologically. And also we deployed, South America, Eastern Europe. We did some internal anti-terrorism domestic missions in France. And so it was like we were moving and grooving. And the training was hard as shit. I was in the mountain regiment, so it was a lot of training up in the Alps, and they know the French know their alpine,
Yeah.
that they know their alpining, and so I was getting my ass kicked, dude, and so it was challenging psychologically. You're learning a language. They're not okay with you speaking English, and the running. I fucking hate running, and they love to run, dude. That was the most scared thing. That was the biggest thing I had fear about,
Yeah.
because I was always the runner that just barely made it, and I had to really try to pass everything. And now I was 34, going back into a selection into one of the biggest running units in the world. Dude, they wake up and run half marathons in boots in the snow, like no
Fuck.
food. Often, bro, often. And 5 miles minimum in the morning, rain or snow, rain or shine, and fast. And I was hurting for the first year to forever, really, the whole time. And I got a little bit better, but it was hard, man. And a good time where, to answer your question directly, yeah, it wasn't. I knew I wasn't fulfilled though, right? And
Yeah.
that came 2 or 3 years in, where I was like, oh no, dude, there's nowhere else to go. Like, what do I do now? Like, I'm a Legionnaire SEAL, or have been, and now I'm living in a barracks room in my late 30s. Like, what? Then I realized I just got to do some internal work. And that's when I started kind of building my daily blueprint, and realized that no matter what was going on, I just needed to be right. And then
Yeah.
started doing a little bit more internal work, being more disciplined on my physical side, shedding some old vices and old ways of moving and grooving, and just holding myself to a higher standard on a daily. And that opened up the world to me. That was Now I was happy, even in the Foreign Legion, which is hard to do. So I was like, all right, it's working.
I feel like you've had two, honestly, three transitions in your life, like the rapid removal from a brotherhood that is so elite that few Americans really understand, then an immediate pivot out of prison into the civilian world, with a chaotic transition out of that into the French Foreign Legions,
Yeah,
and then it's like God gave you that opportunity. The universe opened up. It's like, okay, now you know this isn't what you want to do forever.
yeah,
How are you going to exit and pivot out of this
yeah,
successfully?
yeah,
Deploying your parachute.
yeah. And that was really where I came, and it happened kind of where I knew I wanted to tell my story. And so for this whole time in, I was like, this is going to be a cool story to tell, but I got to get right first,
Yeah.
or else there's no story, right? And there's no redemption arc if you don't have the redemption part, and so I was like, well, all right, I got to get good. I got to get good now. And then so I just spent years waking up at the same time, earlier than they were even making me, kind of training, reading, diving into my own psychological state, stoicism, all these different pieces that just helped me kind of frame things correctly, and holding myself to a higher standard of what energy I was putting out. Like, man, I run my internal state, right? If I'm low, I'll change it. Like, I'll do what I got to do to bump my frequency up. And that was helpful also, because it brought, of all the things I didn't have control over, it was like all I could have control over. And so that I just developed that again and again and again. And then one day I kind of realized, I'm like, man, dude, I feel good. I was suicidal, and now I'm happy, right? Like, in a barracks room, like, man, I want to tell this story. And so I was like, I could teach guys how to how to kind of reframe and get some momentum back, because I lost my mojo, man. And it took me some years, and I know what that feels like, to be like walking through quicksand, as a man, and not feeling like you're living to your potential. And so I was started telling my story. Of nothing else, I thought it'd be an interesting story. So I put my camera down in my barracks room, in my uniform, on my YouTube. It's on my first video, and I just told the story of how I ended up there, raw, no cuts, no edits, and I just have done that since, of just going stream of consciousness, and it hit. And I started getting like hundreds of emails from guys being like, "Hey, dude, I was gonna kill myself and I didn't." Prior Marines, Army guys, and like, I really appreciate you. Like, I don't know how you popped up on my feed, but I really thank you for telling your story. It really kind of reframed, and I'm like, there's something here. And so that's when I knew that that my story wasn't just mine and it was helpful. And so it wasn't like I think my story's so great either. It was like I was actually very hesitant to tell it. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't want to. I didn't have social media and shit. I was in the hospital, man, and I was just like, well, I got a little time. Maybe I'll start dabbling. You know, and this was when I was in France. I tore my medial calf muscle up in the mountains, and so I was just kind of like in there. And so I had a little time, man. I started practicing on camera, and like maybe I could tell this story, or we'll see kind of what happens with no real plan or how to formulate this thing. And it just resonated with people, and I found a lot of purpose transcending self. Right, I had the self-actualization piece, and now it's like it felt good to be able to just be like see people kind of getting their momentum back just off shit that I was doing. I'll just show you what I do. Here's what supplements I take. Here's the time I get up, and here's how I eat. Here's how I track my food, and here's how I train. Do that and watch. You'll start feeling better. And sure enough, like people started feeling better. And that's just what I've continued to do. And so I had the ability to do a military transition twice, right? And I fumbled the first one. And that's why I was like, how did I fumble it? I did a lot of years of really thinking back. I didn't maintain my disciplines.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a blueprint. I didn't really think about that. And so I was like, I'm not doing that this time. So the same shit I was doing in the French Foreign Legion barracks room, I still do in my house on the golf course now, right? In the bathroom at 3:34 in the morning. Dead serious. I have not changed not one day of that. Because I just call it crazy or call it whatever you want. It works for me. It's a touch point that I find a lot of getting myself right in a good deliberate morning. Not some long biohacking bullshit that takes 2 hours, but just, a good 30 minutes of like getting myself without looking at this thing, without getting pulled into the matrix. But that was helpful for me. And so I also show people that is deliberate morning is very important. And
Absolutely.
I get a lot of purpose out of that.
Yeah. It's one thing that we're starting to see with like-minded coaches. Shout out to Terry Wilson, former Sergeant Major, Green Beret, friend, and my personal trainer, but he has the same methodologies and he speaks about it often. And I going on your website, you share the same insights that I think are successful for so many individuals that are looking for guidance and where to start. It's not about going out there and buying those $300 fucking trainer shoes and a whole bunch of gear. Like, fuck the equipment, fuck the high expense shit. Like, what you need right now is a purpose and a clear insight as to what you're putting into your body and what you're doing throughout your day. Yeah. And it comes across in everything that you're putting out there, man. And I want to ask right now, like, being able to look back at your journey and now seeing the impact, like, does it actually hit you that like, holy shit, like I've turned this life of pain and trauma and turmoil into purpose and I'm actually helping people? Like, have you given yourself the time to like pause and reflect at how many people you've been able to help and touch with your story just by being vulnerable enough to share it?
I feel very fortunate and blessed that it's like panned out well and that it like is working and the message is being received. And now I feel like I'm not doing enough. I feel like I can do more, but also I feel a responsibility to myself of like, well, I got to hold myself to the higher standard now. I can't fucking slip, man. It's not just about me anymore. Not to mention I got a family now and stuff. It's like there's the game has upped.
Yeah.
Right? The game is upped and there's no more. You don't have the luxury of fucking up again. It's not about. Yeah, you don't get another redo, man. And that's like I get the chills when I think about it because I know it's like God going, yeah, bro. Like you've used them all up. There's no more in the tank. Right. Yeah. And so it's like, okay, if that's the case, then I got to be very strategic about what I do, deliberate. Like you're talking about, Denny, like your colleague, man, is this wisdom, man. It's collective unconscious. They've been talking about this stuff since thousands of years ago. Sumerians were talking about it, right? It's not new information. And people go, oh, you're just repackaging. Yeah, no shit. Because people need to be more reminded than taught. And it's just packaged differently for different people, and it's received by different people in different ways. And so people resonate in different ways, but everybody should be doing it. Yep. Not one person benefits from being less disciplined. Not possible. Maybe if you're some weird artist or something, maybe. I don't know. But, they don't live very happy lives, a lot of them. But if you want to live in inner peace and clarity, discipline is how you do it. You don't need to be a robot. You don't need to measure every fucking almond, right? It's not what it's about, but it's about being mindful and hold a little bit of restraint. That's it. And if you have a good plan, like you don't try to build a house without a blueprint, don't try to build some beautiful life without a plan, a game plan, right? And you build it with a blueprint and it just works better. And when you hit it, you feel good.
Yeah.
It's a good
100%.
reference point.
Yeah. Discipline is the actual freedom that you're craving. The idea that you can just fly around on your day-to-day activities and just not have a care in the world, eat tons of bullshit, and just be sucked into your phone all fucking day long. That's not freedom. Like, you need discipline, like motivation, and this idea that you need to have the right hype video, that shit's fleeting. Like, you have to have discipline. Set the alarm clock, wake up when the first one goes off, not on the fifth one or sixth one, and get out there and do something. Be physically active, be mindful, live your ethos. Like, you want to talk about all this great shit on social media. Are you actually living it? Are you actually holding yourself accountable? Like, and you're living proof that when you put in the work, when you put it out into the universe and it speaks back to you, you have to jump at that fucking opportunity. Because think back, if you didn't jump at that opportunity and you just decided to sit out there in the jungles in Hawaii a little bit longer, that version of Taylor, where would he be today? I doubt that he'd be with us.
Yeah, that's powerful, man. Denny was saying that is because when these windows open, go through them. When those doors open, go through them. Don't wait for another better one. I assure you, it's opening up for a reason. And that trust and faith, that being tapped into a higher spiritual frequency, understanding that your path is important.
Yeah.
I had a buddy, Jimmy Watson, who's great. I'll link you guys up with him, but Blackwater, SEAL, done a lot of stuff. And he's like the man who doesn't believe in destiny doesn't have one. I was like, damn, man, it's very powerful. You got to know you're on a destiny's path in some type of greatness that's for a greater purpose. If you don't have that, you will be lost. It's not just about self-actualizing and acquiring until you die. Nobody's happy like that. And that's not the life I want to live. And so I'm liking that, like these us like minds and people, it's resonating with people for a reason.
Yeah.
There's this movement happening. I know you see it that for whatever reason, and kind of how this shift is coming about, where it's like, man, being accountable. Let's hold ourselves. Let's move forward. Like, it's not cool to be soft, and that pleasure seeking and you're a slave to your desires.
Yep.
We're just doing what we want. You're not free. You're a slave to your desires, and people wonder why they aren't happy and they feel like shit. Well, it's because you did whatever you wanted all day, and now you're paying the karmic debt for it.
Yep.
And so go the other direction. If you've tried that and it's not working, let's try something else.
Absolutely, man. Taylor, if people want to get a hold of you or seek you out for coaching, where can they go?
My website, taylorcavanaugh.com. That contact form goes right to my personal email. So I don't do outsourced AI or anything like that. So that comes right to me. My Instagram, TCavOfficial, can also reach me there on the DMs. And my YouTube, Taylor Cavanaugh, TCav TV, man. We dive into the deeper principles, gym sessions with some different characters around the United States and some keynote speeches and stuff, but that has a lot of information on there. But my website will be the best way to reach me.
Hell yeah, man. If you pause right now, go to the episode description. You'll see all the links there. Hit them up. If you're looking for purpose, direction, and just need to get moved out of the funk that you're in, reach out to Taylor. It's a real human being that's actually been through some shit and not some, 20-year-old influencer that the hardest thing they ever had to do was leave their parents' home. So reach out to Taylor today.
Move out of the funk, man. I like that. That's so well said, right? Let's get feeling better, right?
Absolutely, man. Taylor, I can't thank you enough for being here. To everybody tuning in, thank you for tuning in. And one more thing, head on over to YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review. Leave us some comments. It helps the algorithm and it pushes the episode. So if you could do that for me, I'd greatly appreciate it. Taylor, thank you again. To all y'all tuning in, thank you for being here. We'll see y'all next time. Till then, take care.
Thanks, man. Appreciate y'all.
Absolutely, brother.